At the very beginning of 2023, I put together a video going over my 10 most anticipated movies of the year. And now that we've reached the end of 2023, let's take a look back and see if I picked well or if I'm an idiot. Spoilers, I am an idiot, but hopefully not when it comes to movies. What's up, my dude? Your friendly neighborhood Tony here, and if you want to keep up to speed on all the new big movies that are coming out in theaters and on streaming, make sure you subscribe. All right, let's go ahead and jump into this. I'm going to try to keep the video pretty short, but at the beginning of 2023, my 10th pick for my most anticipated movies of the year was, believe it or not, Barbie. Now, to be fair, at that time, I had no clue that this movie would go on to become the massive hit that it's been. For me, I was just looking at the fact that it was being written and directed by Greta Gerwig, who was really successful at that time and whose movies I had really enjoyed. And also, of course, Noah Baumbach, who writes with her and I believe also wrote on Marriage Story, which was an incredibly well-written movie. And then, of course, starring Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling, it just had all of the pieces that I thought would make it at least a decent movie. Now, of course, the fan base of the movie has completely taken off with it. It's grossed well over $1 billion, and it ended up being one of my favorite movies of the year. So far, so good with my picks. But don't worry, my luck immediately falls off with number 9. Coming in at number 9 is a movie that you might not even remember. It starred Adam Driver and it was called 65. Now, after watching the trailer towards the beginning of the year and just hearing about the concept of it, it involves space travel and maybe time travel and dinosaurs and laser guns and Adam Driver. I mean, what's not to love here? Or so I thought. It turned out that the plot of the movie was paper thin. And even though it was cool to see Adam Driver fighting dinosaurs with laser guns, that was pretty much all there was. The story itself wasn't very compelling. The characters didn't really grab me. And some of the decisions that even the dinosaurs themselves made just made no sense. Was it a terrible movie? No, I won't say that. But it definitely did not live up to my expectations. And I don't think it's a movie I'm going to be revisiting anytime soon. All right, coming in at number 8 is another movie that didn't quite live up to my expectations. And that was Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Now, of course, we knew going into this that the most recent Indiana Jones movie prior to it was not that great, and that it had been a long time since we'd seen anything from the franchise. But with James Mangold taking over as director, I thought that he would bring a lot of his style and passion and energy into this, especially coming off the back of movies like 3:10 to Yuma and Logan. I thought we'd be getting a lot more. Now, that said, there's still plenty to enjoy about the movie, the adventure aspect. I feel like Harrison Ford really took the role seriously, and even though some of the de-aging CG wasn't that great, visually, I thought most of the movie was enjoyable. If I'm being honest though, going back and revisiting Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, which I know everyone hates, I'm really kind of unsure which movie is better between that and this one. They both have some good pieces, but overall don't come close to the original trilogy. All right, coming in at number 7 is a movie that is created by the studio Illumination that makes all of the Despicable Me movies and Minions movies, and most recently put out a movie called Migration, which is a lot of fun. It's in theaters right now. I'll link to that up here if you want to check that video out after this one. But if you haven't put it together, this particular movie is the Super Mario Brothers movie. Now, again, prior to this coming out, we hadn't seen a ton of great video game based movies. There was the Sonic movies, which I did really enjoy, and Detective Pikachu is another one that I personally loved, even though it didn't get great reviews. And so I was a little wary going into a Super Mario Brothers movie, especially since the 1993 movie was horrendous. But overall, this was a lot of fun, super bright and colorful. It really explored all the different types of Mario games in fun and interesting ways. And even with Chris Pratt voicing Mario, which I still don't like, it was overall just a really good time at the theaters. It made a ton of money, I think over $1 billion at this point, and was just overall a good time for the whole family. So I'm really curious to see where they go from here. I know Nintendo's been talking about doing more Mario movies, but also more spin-offs for other characters, and potentially even a Super Smash Brothers movie, which would be insane. So I'm curious to see if this is the quality that they're going to be able to bring to the table. I will absolutely watch whatever they have next. Okay, coming in at number 6 is a movie that was pretty divisive, even though I really enjoyed it, and that is DC's The Flash. Now, The Flash has been pushed and postponed and had all of these reshoots done and changes made to it, and I know a lot of people didn't like the end product. I really had a good time watching it. You know, say what you will about fan service and Easter eggs and things like that and whether or not those make a good movie. I obviously don't think they do, but for what I was looking for in this particular movie, all of those little Easter eggs and cameos and nods to fans, they actually sat well with me. I know this movie was originally supposed to be the final movie in the DCEU and was pretty much set to reboot everything, but there was a mess of issues with both the lead actor and then having to delay other movies like Aquaman, making that officially the final DCEU movie. And yet, despite all of that mess, I think they made a really good movie here. Now, of course, the DC universe is getting completely rebooted, so none of this really matters going forward, at least from that perspective. But all in all, The Flash was enjoyable. I had a good time watching it. It had some great action sequences, some really funny comedy, and even some heartfelt moments. So I think this one I'm going to count as a win for me as far as my predictions are concerned. Okay, before we get into our top 5 here, I want to take a quick second to thank you guys so much for watching this video and for making 2023 the biggest year for this channel by far. Now, granted, I've only been around for a couple of years, but this year we were able to pass 2,000 subscribers, which is insane. And I couldn't have done it without all of you watching and liking the videos and of course subscribing yourself. So from me to you, thank you so much for being a part of this. And of course, if you haven't subscribed already and you want to join the journey, let's see how quickly we can get to 3,000. So yeah, thanks again. And of course, if you want to keep up to speed on all the new big movies coming out, make sure you subscribe. All right. On to number 5. So my number 10 pick for 2023 was, of course, Barbie. And coming in at number 5 is a movie that kind of rounds out that equation. Of course, the other side to Barbie, Oppenheimer. I really feel like Christopher Nolan just can't miss. And it's wild to me that he was able to take a movie that is about nuclear physics and world history and turn it into a movie that makes about $1 billion at the box office. It's completely insane. And almost just because of Nolan's name, this made it into my top 5 most anticipated movies of the year. And I think you really can't undersell that. Yes, we know that movies that are big and explosive and colorful, and genre movies, whether it's comic books or characters and products that we all know and love, like Barbie or Super Mario or the Avengers or what have you, we know that those kind of movies can make tons of money at the box office. But you can't stress enough that to take something like this and make it the massive hit that it was, it's insane. And I don't know if anybody but Christopher Nolan could do it. Now, of course, I'm also going to be doing a separate video here in the next couple of days about my top 10 favorite movies of the year. So will Oppenheimer also make it onto that list? Well, you're just gonna have to stick around for that. All right, let's go ahead and get to number 4 on my list. And please don't judge me for this one, okay? I didn't know. How could I have known? For some reason, at the beginning of 2023, above Oppenheimer, God, I'm an idiot, I had AntMan and the Wasp: Quantumania. Now look, hold on, hear me out. If we go back to the beginning of 2023, we didn't know. We didn't know what would become of this movie and of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I had just come off of watching Loki, and where they introduced Kang the Conqueror, and he seemed like this really interesting villain that they were going to do so much with. And Quantumania was kind of the jumping off point into the greater Marvel Cinematic Universe for that villain. So even though the first 2 Ant-Man movies weren't mind-blowing by any means, I thought this was really going to be the one. And unfortunately, it turned out it absolutely was not. I mean, I didn't feel like I wasted my time at the theaters watching it, but the CG was a disaster. They basically completely neutered this villain that we were all looking forward to seeing more of. And yeah, it was ultimately a big miss for me. What was even a bigger miss, though, is a movie coming in 3rd place of my most anticipated movies of 2023. And that's because it didn't come out. That's right. My 3rd most anticipated movie of 2023 was Dune Part 2. Now, this movie was supposed to come out this month in December, but unfortunately it's been pushed out. I think, was it till March or something like that? And that is super annoying because I absolutely loved the first Dune movie and was totally looking forward to this one. I've also been holding off on reading any of the Dune books because I haven't wanted to spoil anything that's going to be coming out in the 2nd movie. So having them postpone this has been a real pain in the butt. I can't wait to see Dune Part 2. Hopefully in March. I'm assuming they're not going to push it again, but I will definitely be watching it as soon as it comes out and of course reviewing it for you guys here on the channel. Okay, and then there were 2. Before I reveal my top 2 though, let me know what your most anticipated movies were for 2023. Not the ones that you looking back on liked the most, but at the beginning of the year, if you can remember, what were the movies you were really looking forward to? And be honest, even with the ones that ended up being terrible. Okay, coming in at number 2 for me was the sequel to Spider-Man Into the Spiderverse, of course called Spider-Man Across the Spiderverse. And this movie turned out to be so much better than I could have anticipated. They took everything that we saw in Into the Spiderverse and cranked it up to another level, which again, I didn't think was possible, but somehow they did it. It is visually a masterpiece. There's so much lore opened up in this movie with all the different Spider-Men across the universes, or I guess across the Spiderverses. But there's just so much in this movie, both visually and story-wise, as far as the characters are concerned. It really ended up being so much more than I could have hoped for. I didn't really care much for the ending of the movie. It is, of course, a bit of a cliffhanger, but in my opinion, it's one of the poor cliffhangers, or rather, it's done in a poor way. So much so that the movie doesn't really end. It just kind of hits you with a to be continued and left me kind of unsatisfied. Now, of course, the sequel to Across the Spider-Verse was supposed to be coming out in March, but has been pushed to, I think, July or June. So we are going to have to wait a little bit longer to see the ending of that story. But overall, despite my issues with the ending of this one, I really, really enjoyed Across the Spider-Verse, and I cannot wait to see what they do from here. I'm really hoping they find a way to link this into a live action story with Miles Morales, but I guess only time will tell with that. In the meantime, I'll keep my fingers crossed. Okay, here we are, the #1 most anticipated movie of 2023, and this one might surprise you. But for me, at the very beginning of 2023, there was a little movie that was announced that I don't think was on a lot of people's radar, and I really don't think it was because the movie ended up not making very much money. But that was a movie called Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves. I was so hyped for this movie at the beginning of 2023. For those that don't know, I'm a big Dungeons and Dragons fan. I love the lore and the worlds, and I play it as often as I can with friends. So when I found out that they were making a Dungeons and Dragons movie that was kind of an action adventure comedy, and then of course the cast that was going to be involved in this movie, I was so hyped for it and so looking forward to it. Now, thankfully, the movie ended up totally living up to my expectations. And without spoiling too much of my upcoming list of favorite movies of 2023, this one is definitely on there. Now, as I mentioned, this movie did not make very much money at the box office, which is so sad. But even still, there has been some chatter about potentially having a sequel. I think with the stipulation that they minimize the budget, but I know I would absolutely love to see it. And I've definitely picked up Dungeons and Dragons on Blu-ray. So if you haven't seen this movie, absolutely check it out. I think it's streaming on Prime Video, so if you have that, which I think most of us do, you can watch it for free. But yeah, that's it. These were my 10 most anticipated movies at the beginning of 2023. Not bad if I say so myself. Of course, keep on the lookout for my upcoming favorite movies of 2023. Now, again, that's not going to be what I consider to be the best movies or the ones that are most likely to win awards at the Oscars or anything like that. It's my own personal favorite. So that video will be coming in the next couple days, as well as a video about my most anticipated of next year, 2024. So if you want to see all that, make sure you subscribe. Otherwise, I'll catch you in the next one. All right. Happy New Year and be good.